Hi, welcome to the Ambitious Africans podcast. This is your host, Secho, and I'm super excited to come to you today. How was your day? I hope your day has been good. I hope your week has been good. My week has been topsy turvy, but it was really good. I'll tell you a story. Something happened this week. There's this person I'm working with who I would say there was a bit of a clash. I'm laughing. There was a bit of a clash, and in the conversation, it escalated, and all of a sudden, this person was talking about my personality and why I'm I'm always like this and I'm always like that. And I'm like, okay, first off, you don't know me that well. This isn't something I said to the person, but first off, you don't know me that well. Secondly, this is supposed to be a project or something like work related. Essentially, it's supposed to be work related. So I would have appreciated it if that conversation was related to the work. So the feedback you give me is related to the work and not all of a sudden go talking about my personality and who I am and what I am not. And I would say it, it brave, what's the word? It braced me a bit. I, yeah, all of yesterday I was a bit down. I was questioning myself. I was doubting myself if all the things this person was saying about me, because there is value in listening to somebody's experience of you. Like when somebody is giving feedback or trying to describe you to you, it's always a vulnerable place you put yourself in when you're listening, because you're like, I really hope they really capture who I am in whatever they're going to be describing, like who I know myself to be in their description. And so it's such a vulnerable place to be. And to have that on top of this work discussion was just too much for me. But thank God I reflected on it, and I I had a conversation. Like I went to like a third person or a third party, like trying to run through the conversation to genuinely know where my issue was, what I needed to improve and all that, and where theirs is. And I thought, obviously I've not given you the specific details, but I hope this gives you an overview of a similar situation you might have experienced for yourself, where you have to contend with these kind of personal layers to interacting with people, especially in professional spaces, and knowing how to draw the line. As I reflected on that, I came back to this lesson I learned almost 7 years ago, and it was I'll call it the lesson of drawing the line and packing your side of the baggage. Now, the lesson of drawing the line is, in this case, for example, if a conversation is suddenly turning into a confrontation, and in the moment you're having those back and forth, it can be tasking on your energy levels, right? And so when you calm down, when you're processing, drawing the line is when you're like, this is where it went out of line, and this is where it was within the conversation. This is where it got out of hand, essentially. And not just say this is where it got out of hand just so you can appease yourself or pat yourself on the back to make you feel like, yeah, I was right. But genuinely to say, okay, if this is where it escalated, or if this is where it went beyond the borderline, what does that mean for me? It means that you look at the part of the line where you genuinely contributed to it escalating, and you pack that baggage and take it with you to go process on your own. And the ones that are not, and you have to be objective in this process, like you have to be super objective in this process. You can't just say, oh, this is my fault, I shouldn't have said that, my reaction was this. Oh, but if she hadn't said that, I wouldn't have said. No, objectively say, I can understand. And sometimes it's even being great gracious to yourself to say, I can understand why I responded that way, because he came at me like this. And so my natural instinct was to respond that way. I'll give myself grace for that. It's part of the things I need to improve. under such a condition. However, these are genuinely, objectively, the things that I contributed to the conversation this way. And I'm not saying you always have to pack baggage from these kind of conversations. There are instances where genuinely there is nothing for you to pack. I would say genuinely there wasn't really anything for me to pack. I think for me, the learning was that there were differences in thought processes, in preferences, and in the way we each want to exert control, because I wasn't coming to the conversation for control in any way. I was looking to understand. Perhaps that didn't come off to the person as that. And so now they had to go into this tangent of trying to talk to my personality. And I would say attack my personality in the process. But that is their baggage to deal with. And it's healthy to know when to pack your baggage and when to leave the rest to the other person. I'm I'm thinking of having a conversation with this person again to go through what had happened in a more calm environment. I'll let you know how that goes. I hope it doesn't escalate. But the learning is that there are differences in how people see things. I've become very cognizant of the subjectivities of people's decisions. Like people make decisions based on different contexts, very subjective context. And it's always good to sometimes accept that and keep it pushing. Yeah. Anyways, today's episode is supposed to be totally different from my brief catch up of how my week went. But generally, my week went quite okay. So we thank God. We thank God. There's this piece I saw on LinkedIn, and it's titled The Gift of Enough: How to Live, Work, and Leave a Legacy in an Age That Worships More. Ooh, that title is so good. And I'm going to put like it's a LinkedIn article. It's by engineer Kwamina Segu Ekrements. I'm going to put the post in the description notes, and also like I'll take a screenshot or something and paste it here so you can also see what it looks like on LinkedIn. If you ever listen to this episode in full and you know him, or if you don't and you go check out the article, please go say hi. Tell them Secho sent you there, and I'm really a fan of what he wrote. So I'm going to read this out, but I also want it to be in context of what we've been discussing, some of the things we've already been discussing. And whenever I see things like this, like conversations like this online or somewhere else talk about these things, I'm like, oh, I see there's a move in thought processes with people around the same themes. Like people are thinking about these things, and it's like, I'm not the only one. It's so nice. It's so nice. I think this sounds better, so let me stick with it. Um, yeah, so it's really nice to have that, and I want to read the article essentially. It's like I said, the title is The Gift of Enough: How to Live, Work, and Leave a Legacy in an Age That Worships More. 1. The anxiety of achievement. The modern work, the modern world does not lack success. It lacks satisfaction. We have engineered supply chains that span oceans, built corporations that outlive their founders, extended life expectancy by decades, and created technologies that collapse geography into milliseconds. We have become masters of scale. And yes, beneath the architecture of achievement, a quieter story unfolds. Executives burn out at 45, politicians climb to power only to discover isolation at the summit. Entrepreneurs sell companies for sums their grandparents could not imagine, and then spiral into disorientation. Young professionals earn more than any generation before them, yet wrestle with depression and dread. We have achieved acceleration. We have not achieved rest. The problem is not ambition. Ambition has built civilizations. The problem is disordered ambition. Ambition untethered from meaning, from gratitude, from limits. Centuries ago, an ancient observer of human striving captured this tension with startling clarity. Oh my word, this is so good. Even so, quote begins, even so, I have noticed one thing, at least that is good. It is good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and a good health to enjoy it, to enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is indeed a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to brood over the past. End quote. The theology of enough. Ecclesiastes is not a book of easy answers. It is a book of hard-won wisdom. Its author, traditionally identified as Solomon, though scholars debate, was no stranger to wealth, power, and achievement. He had tasted the banquet of more, and yet his conclusion was startling. Joy is not found in accumulation, but in acceptance. To accept one's lot is not resignation, it is liberation. It is the recognition that life is finite, that striving without gratitude is vanity, and that enough is not a compromise, but a gift. In Ghana, where I grew up, I saw this theology embodied in the rhythms of village life. A farmer with 3 goats and a modest plot of land would measure wealth not in currency, but in community ties. His satisfaction was not in surpassing his neighbor, but in sharing palm wine after harvest. He lived Ecclesiastes without even quoting it. Contrast this with the modern West, where enough is treated as failure. To settle is to lose. To rest is to fall behind. The theology of enough is drowned out by the liturgy of more. I could go on and on, but one of the things I really value with this is the train of thought that is coming through, and I hope it's coming through for you as well. I'm going to continue. It's not really that long, so I'm going to continue, and I hope you're enjoying my reading this for you. So, like I said, I'm continuing. The economics of discontent. Economists have long studied the paradox of prosperity. GDP rises, productivity soars, yet happiness stagnates. The Easterlin paradox, first articulated in the 1970s, showed that beyond a certain threshold, increases in income do not correlate with increases in happiness. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. The new car excites for a month, then becomes ordinary. The promotion thrills for a week, then becomes expectation. More never feels like enough because the baseline keeps shifting. Consider Silicon Valley. Entrepreneurs sell companies for billions, only to wake up purposeless. One founder confessed after his exit, I thought money would solve everything. Instead, it solved nothing. It stopped and stripped away the illusion that I was working for freedom. Now I have freedom and I don't know what to do with it. The economics of discontent is not about scarcity, it's about insatiability. The culture of more. The culture of more has deep roots. The Protestant work ethic sanctified labor as a sign of divine labor. The American dream promised upward mobility through relentless effort. Advertising in the 20th century transformed desire into duty. To consume was to belong. Today, social media amplifies dissatisfaction. Instagram is a cathedral of comparison. TikTok is a marketplace of envy. The hustle culture mantra, rise and grind, baptizes exhaustion as virtue. but other cultures offer alternatives. In Sweden, the concept of lagon, which is just the right amount, shapes social life. In Japan, ikigai, reason for being, anchors purpose not in wealth, but in meaning. These philosophies echo Ecclesiastes. Joy is found not in excess, but in balance. The legacy question: what does it mean to leave behind more than money? Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president, envisioned Pan African unity. His legacy was not in personal wealth, but in the dream of continental solidarity. Contrast this with elites who accumulate fortunes yet leave no enduring impact. Legacy is not measured in monuments, but in memory. A teacher who shapes generations leaves more than a tycoon who hoards billions. A parent who models joy leaves more than a politician who amasses power. Ecclesiastes reminds us God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to brood over the past. Legacy is not in brooding, it's in living joyfully, enough that others remember. Toward a philosophy of enough, what would it mean to embrace enough as a philosophy? One, gratitude. To see wealth not as an entitlement, but as a gift. To see and recognize that boundaries are not prisons, but protections. That's two, limits. Three, community. To measure success not in isolation, but in connection. Rest. To reclaim Sabbath as resistance against endless striving. This philosophy has practical implications. Workplaces could prioritize well being over output. Families could value presence over possessions. Civic life could honor equity over endless expansion. Enough is not mediocrity. Enough is balance. Enough is the art of living within the gift. Conclusion: the gift we keep missing. We began with the anxiety of achievement. We end with the gift of enough. The true revolution is not in technological but spiritual. It is the rediscovery of Ecclesiastes' wisdom that joy is found not in more but in gratitude, but in striving, not in striving, but in savoring. Imagine a life where we are so busy enjoying life that regret loses its grip. Imagine a society where legacy is measured not in skyscrapers, but in shared meals. Imagine a culture where enough is not failure, but freedom. That is a gift we keep missing, and that is the gift we must recover. The end. This leaves so much to think about in no small ways. I would say I spent a majority of 2024 going into 2025 exploring enough. I it was literally 1.5 years of me not actively working in a job. And so even though I was looking for projects and things to work on, I had like nothing was coming through at the time. And at some point, I remember my best friend and I were having a conversation, and she told me that in January of 2025, right, she was like she could feel the pressure. Like I was putting myself under a lot of pressure because I spent 6 months of the previous year not doing a lot. I was just floating, and so when the year began in 2025. I was like, I really want to get, I've rested enough. Let me just find something to do. Let me find work. Let me do these things. And when she told me those things, I was like, okay, it's fine. I didn't know I was showing up like that. So healthy, it's like it's good feedback. But I took that feedback really to heart, and I really probed and sat with it and wondered why I was really striving. By God's grace, I had a roof over my head. By God's grace, I had food on my table. There was no one day I was hungry. And that was when I became more and more aware. Like it became more and more salient to me in that season of my life, how my life perspective on achievement, on ambition were changing in a way that it wasn't only centered on titles, let's say like you're a CEO of this, or I all those things can be like big start to strip away, and I started to really learn to flow through life. And so the rest of the year I was just like literally flowing through life. I didn't have anything planned. I didn't want to plan as much. I just wanted to live in the moment. And I remember I was doing a bit of that also in 2024, but I lost focus in that January when my friend gave me that feedback. But I do remember in 2024, I had attended this seminar, and one of the attendees saw me and she said, I walked around like I had no problems. Mean that I was busy looking for work at the time. But it wasn't showing because I was coming, like God was taking me through this season of learning to flow through life. And that is really what the essence of my previous episodes where I talk about living in your enoughness comes from. Like that is the inspiration. That is the mind space all that is coming from. And to see that people are sharing that kind of thoughts and reflections online and sharing that in places like LinkedIn is so profound because not many will listen, but those who do are going to have a total turnaround. And I hope that for you, as you listened to me read the article, it gave you something to chew on, something for you to think about on what could balance look like. And also in this series where we'll be talking about setting new traditions, finding work within different contexts, and now finding truly giving the pursuit of balance a strong chance. I feel like that should even be like a different topic to talk about, giving balance a fair pursuit. But I hope all these things are coming together for you, that sometimes our response to things are not always coming from a clear mental space. Sometimes you're coming from survival mode or reactive mode. And if we can rest and give ourselves that satisfaction of just knowing just the right amount of pursuit, the right amount of survival, the right amount of living according to the assignment God has called us, like the right amount of everything, you would find how your assessment of how things should be done is going to change. Your assessment of what is the best workplace environment is going to change. Your assessment of how you value human relationships is going to change. There's so many stories, so many things have happened over the last couple of weeks that have validated in a way and given me cause to continue on this path that I'm on. And I'm so grateful that we get to have a space on this side of the internet to have those kind of conversations. I'm going to end here, but I hope this was really thought provoking for you. I'll see you in the next one.